Alright, man, peace. So for those of you brothers who follow boxing for at least the last 25 years, you'll know that Oscar De La Hoya has been one of the singular characters in the modern history of boxing. And if we were to appraise how well many of these fighters have done post-career, he's probably been the most successful fighter, other than Floyd Mayweather, post-career in the history of boxing. That's if we don't count the drug abuse, the alcoholism, the philandering, the sticking of utensils up his rectal cavity, the cross-dressing, the lying and bad business practices, that is. But all jokes aside, Oscar De La Hoya, he was the cash cow of boxing all throughout the 90s. He's been a bit overrated. I think that people who honestly know what they're looking at know that he was a great fighter. Well, he never truly beat any of the greatest fighters of his era. At least none of the fighters who were anywhere near what they were. He beat Cesar Chavez twice, but I mean, Julio Cesar Chavez barely beat any great fighters in his own right. I mean, who were the best fighters that Chavez beat? He beat Meldrick Taylor. He beat Roger Mayweather. He got a gift draw against Pernell Whitaker. As soon as his career started to advance, he started to get his ass whooped. And he pretty much was prepped to go against De La Hoya so that the transfer of energy could go from Chavez to De La Hoya. That's why they also put De La Hoya in the ring with Pernell Whitaker, because that was supposed to represent De La Hoya getting the job done that Chavez could not get done and soundly defeating Pernell. And as we all know, that was a very controversial fight in and of itself. But all throughout Oscar's career, he's never shied away from stepping into the ring with great fighters, not only because he was very courageous and put his neck out there, but in addition to that, he understood that even if he lost, his image was so pronounced and so propagated by the media that losses did not even really hurt him. He lost to Trinidad, he lost to Mosley, he lost to Hopkins, he lost to Floyd, and every time he lost, he pretty much lost none of his luster. So did it really matter? Well, anyway, he's decided that he's going to sit down with Stephen A. Smith and Will Cain to discuss many of the top stories in boxing, including the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury match, the third fight between Canelo Alvarez and Triple G that has been mandated by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, so on and so forth. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Joining us now is someone who really needs no introduction, the CEO of Golden Boy Promotions, the Golden Boy himself, our friend, Oscar De La Hoya.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you, as always.
I'm going to be real with you right now, and I'm dead ass serious. This dude looked like he just snorted a couple of lines of cocaine before he showed up to the studio. I'm just going by what I'm looking at. Of course, everything that I'm saying is alleged. I hope that I'm wrong, but I doubt it.
I'm hearing some rumors.
What?
Canelo Triple G.
What? What are you hearing? No, that wasn't me. I was not the one who left those traces of white powder on your desk.
Triple G? 3?
Yeah, why not? Of course. I mean, look, obviously, he has some business to take care of. Here at the Garden, fighting for the first time, Canelo Alvarez with Rocky Fielding from England. He's going...
That's interesting. I didn't know that Canelo was going to be fighting his next fight at Madison Square Garden.
Going for his third weight class. So trying to make history. I think he wants to solidify his legacy and be the 8th.
Canelo's another great fighter, but he's very De La Hoya-esque, and that he can lose in his top fights and it still causes no change in his luster, in his appeal.
The 8th Mexican national champion to capture a third weight division. So that's a very, very important fight. And it's live on DAZN. It's that new platform that everybody's talking about. But yeah, why not Triple G?
Yeah, DAZN. That's the business deal that you made to help save Golden Boy from going under the water, Oscar De La Hoya. Let's be real about it. Ever since Richard Schaefer left you, you've had no idea what the hell you were doing.
Again, I mean, I want to see it. I want to see it, so we'll see if we can make it happen next year.
I got to tell you, I really, really like Canelo before the last fight, but I love him now because
why?
Oscar and I talked before the fight, and Oscar was like, you got to attack the body more. You got to be willing to be a little bit more aggressive. Triple G called Canelo out.
Absolutely, and Canelo answered the call. He didn't run. He didn't move. He boxed his ass off. He walked Triple G down for the majority of the first half of that fight. I thought that Triple G started to, I won't say impose his will upon Canelo, but he won the majority of the rounds in the second half of that fight. But I knew that if Canelo Alvarez was able to be competitive in the second half of the fight, with the way in which he outboxed Triple G in the first half of the fight, he was going to get the decision. Because the one alteration in his approach that he needed to make, which was to be more aggressive, he made. The reason why I thought that Canelo outboxed Triple G in the first fight, even though I was not upset with the decision going to Triple G, was because their rounds were so close. That you're going to give a lot of the close rounds to the champion. Like, I have so many of these guys who know nothing about boxing coming on my channel talking about, well, Tyson Fury got knocked down twice, so there's no way that he could have beaten Deontay Wilder. Or the champion cannot lose his belt if he's fighting in his home territory and he knocks down his opponent twice. All this nonsense to show that they know nothing about what they're talking about. The champion gets the edge in close rounds against the challenger. That's what the belt stands for. That's what it represents. A lot of the close rounds are going to go to the champion if you're fighting close rounds. The Wilder-Fury fight had very few to no close rounds. Either Wilder knocked Fury down or Fury outboxed him. That's normally how the fight went round by round. In the case of Canelo and Triple G, most of their rounds were very competitive.
Because I thought he should have won the first fight, and Canelo stalked him the entire fight. I never saw that coming. I got mad respect for Canelo. Having said all of that, when you think about a trilogy with him and Triple G,
Right.
why should we? What would be any different than what you saw in the first two?
I think.
Well, I don't think that it has to be any different, Stephen A. Smith, because the first fight was a draw, and the second fight was a very slim decision for Canelo. So the reason why people will be interested in watching the third fight is because we don't know how it's going to end. What's going to be the resolution? The first fight was a draw. The second fight was a very close decision. So we should expect the third fight to be very close as well.
I think the difference will be somebody's going to knock somebody out.
We'll see. We know that you're the promoter, so that's how you have to sell the fight. That's how you sold the first two fights, that somebody's going to get knocked out. And that didn't happen. But I get it. I'll watch the fight anyway because I'm a boxing enthusiast. I enjoy the sport. I expect it to be highly competitive. But for the quote-unquote casual fan, that's how he has to sell the fight. That somebody's going to get knocked out because he knows that we live in the age of attention deficit disorder. So people have to be promised immediate action.
I think that's going to be the difference. I mean, they know each other's style now. You know, Triple G, the first fight, okay, he came forward. And people said, oh, well, he won the fight because he was aggressive. So now Canelo, I tell Canelo, you have to go out there and bully the bully.
Absolutely, especially when he has the belt.
You have to go out there and go forward and throw every combination you know until the last round. And
Absolutely, especially when he has the belt and the rounds are going to be close. All right, I have to specify that because I'm sure somebody will come in the comment, wait a minute, so how come Tyson Fury didn't have to come forward to beat Wilder? And even if you watch that fight, even though many of the pro-blackity-black fanboys of Deontay Wilder claim that Fury ran the whole fight, there were many rounds where he came in on Deontay and moved him backward. Deontay has phenomenal heart, great power, great drive. But he should be happy with the draw, and so should his fans. Now, in the case of the Canelo versus Triple G matchup, all that Canelo was missing was the semblance of more aggressiveness. Even though, in my view, he outboxed Triple G in their first fight, he moved around so much, and Triple G was able to appear as if he was doing certain things. And a lot of times appearances, when you're the champ and those rounds are so close, that's when the rounds are going to go the champ's way.
And that's exactly what he did. And he won the fight. And now the third, if a third one happens, I think there's no room for decision or anything like that. I think you have to knock your guy out to win.
Everything is built. Stars are built for trilogies, right?
I agree.
You got to have stars.
I think we
can
can see 5 fights.
Oh, 5 triple G.
I wouldn't go that
Absolutely. Why not? Why
No,
not?
that's really fair.
That's Oscar De La Hoya's way of saying, I don't really want to match Canelo up against any of these other fighters. I don't want to match him up against one of the Charlos or Demetrius Andrade or someone like that. I would prefer that if Canelo were to lose, that he lose to Triple G.
Triple G's older. Stop it. Stop it. Canelo's got plenty of time left. He set Triple G up, but he'll lose the 4th or 5th time for sure. But go ahead,
We
Will.
just had a big heavyweight fight, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. Now everybody wants to see Anthony Joshua. Let me ask you this. Who do you think is the best right now in the heavyweight division? Who's the guy to look at?
To look at is
The good news is that there's no real best fighter in the heavyweight division, in my view, because I think that depending on the permutation, anybody could be anybody. I could see Tyson Fury outboxing Deontay Wilder again. I could see him outboxing Anthony Joshua. I could see Anthony Joshua knocking out Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury. I could see Deontay Wilder knocking out Anthony Joshua. Hell, I could see Deontay Wilder catching Tyson Fury flush and knocking him out in the rematch. So that's what makes this time period in the heavyweight division so phenomenal. A heavyweight division that had been dormant previous to the rise of Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua.
Anthony Joshua. I think so. After watching Wilder and Fury, I have mad respect for them, both guys. Because, I mean, look, these guys were throwing bombs. These guys, I mean, come on. Fury goes down, referee's counting him out, and all of a sudden you see the freaking Undertaker just get up, you know? It was crazy.
But wait a minute, Oscar. You forgot to mention the quote-unquote long count.
So mad respect for both guys. I think Wilder did a great job. Fury...
He did do a great job. Unfortunately for him, he's allowing himself to fall down the woke rabbit hole with these bugged out dudes.
Fury did a great job, but the gatekeeper right there in that division is Anthony Joshua.
Let me transition to...
Well, Anthony Joshua is the golden calf. I would not necessarily call him the best fighter. He's the golden calf. But we all know the reason, or the main reason why Oscar's saying this is because, if I remember correctly, the person who runs DAZN, which is the new broadcasting company that Canelo Alvarez just recently signed with, is Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is also the manager / promoter of Anthony Joshua.
What can only be labeled an uncomfortable subject to some degree. Dana White, the boss for the UFC.
Yeah,
Dana White be unloading on Oscar like, wow. The shit Dana White says about Oscar makes it look like Floyd Mayweather saying great things, like he's putting forth platitudes about Oscar De La Hoya.
He doesn't really have too many nice things to say about you, Oscar. And listen, he went so far a few weeks ago, and I like Dana. I like both of you, I know that. But I thought he went a little bit too far. He called you a cokehead for crying out. This is what he said about you.
Was he lying?
About you. I want to know as...
Oscar's like, okay, yes, he called me that. I really went through a bad time when he said that because he made me think about coke.
As we have you sitting here on national television, what does that relate?
Look at Oscar's face. Let me tell you something. Oscar snorted a couple lines before this interview. Let me rewind this back.
Relation went a little bit too far. He called you a coke.
Now look at Oscar's face when Stephen A. says cokehead.
Cokehead for crying out. This is what he said about you. I want to know, as we have you sitting here...
Look at that facial expression Oscar made. I really wish I had some coke right now.
On national television, what is that relationship about, and what do you have to say about the things that he has had to say about you?
Well, look, first of all, what I said about, not about him personally, just about the business, about how fighters are just coming up to me and saying, look, we don't get paid enough. UFC just sold for $4 billion.
Well, look, we already know that the UFC is being run like a slave pen. It just is. The way that Dana White pimps out these fighters, but they get what they deserve because they've allowed themselves to buy into that paradigm of, I'm just a fighter. Whenever they call on me, I'm going to fight. I'm not worried about the business. I do it for the love of fighting and all this other nonsense. The only way that somebody like Dana White is going to be forced to change is if the fighters stand up. He basically can order whatever fight he wants, whenever he wants. And of course, that's a great business model for the quote-unquote fans and the viewers, but the fighters have to watch out for themselves as well.
You know, we're here struggling, trying to make ends meet. You know, I'm fighting for a world title fight where this fight does 1 million homes and I only get paid $50,000.
Wow.
Look, I'm not attacking his persona. I'm not attacking him personally. If he wants to attack me personally of what happened 15 years ago, you know, and let me tell you one thing. After that, yeah, I made myself better. Yes, I've cleaned up. Yes, I've done the work to be...
That won't work. I hope you're not talking about your cocaine addiction, man. I mean, come on. You pretty much had a relapse a couple years ago. Wasn't it just a couple years ago where the prostitute said that Oscar De La Hoya was sticking spatulas up his ass or something like that? Like gigantic spoons this motherfucker was putting up his ass? What is he talking about?
to be the person I am today. And that's a person that is, a person that is clean, a good citizen of America. And that's what I do. I'm working.
Don't go to dinner with Oscar. You be sitting at the dinner table with Oscar. You be like, excuse me, waiter, could you bring me another spoon? My soup. I don't have a spoon. Oscar, okay, hold on. Let me just get one. Motherfucker go down his pants and shit.
Working hard to build my business and to take care of my fighters. Are you doing the same? Are you taking care of your fighters? Why are so many fighters complaining? You know what? I'm getting to a point where I was going to do one event, okay? Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, okay? I gave Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell the opportunity because Dana White doesn't pay him enough. Why?
No, sir. You gave them the opportunity because Dana White would not allow Chuck Liddell to fight in the UFC because Chuck Liddell's pushing 50 years old and he's done. Everybody knows he's done. So that's why that happened.
Why in the hell is Chuck Liddell still fighting at this age? Because Dana White doesn't pay him enough. That's why.
So what you do is you put him in the ring and say, I'm going to let your old ass fight for me. Why don't you give him a job at Golden Boy, Oscar? Why you going to pimp him out and have him fighting at damn near 50 years old and get sparked like he did?
So I have to come in and give him his biggest payday that he's ever made. So that's the bottom line.
I want to. Some people would say though, Chuck Liddell had no business in the octagon. He's had
absolutely
had some vicious knockout losses.
Yes,
Rashad Evans.
Yes, he has.
We saw what Tito Ortiz did to him in the first round just the other day. I mean, that was bad. So Dana came from the point. I am looking out for fighters because Chuck Liddell is a friend of mine. We go back 20 plus years. He should have never been in there, and somebody who cared about him would have never put him in the octagon. What do you say to that?
Well, he's already said what he'll say to that, Stephen A. Smith. He said that Dana White is paying him peanuts. And if he'd been paying him more, commensurate to what Chuck Liddell has brought to the table over the course of their quote-unquote 20-year friendship, then Chuck would not still be fighting. Now, we know that that's BS because for the most part, fighters are going to fight until they get sparked. That's how it goes. But Oscar makes a great point. We all know that the UFC fighters are drastically underpaid. We all know that.
Did you know that Chuck Liddell made $200,000 when he fought Tito Ortiz, and that pay-per-view did 1.5 million homes? Who kept the rest of the money? That's not fair. You don't do that to fighters.
I have a question. Isn't boxing and UFC such a different deal, though? Because they have the unifying body in terms of having the UFC, and boxing doesn't, all the different promotions.
Okay, fine then. I'm going to take the calls that all these UFC fighters are calling me. I mean, there's 40, 50 UFC fighters who are calling me. I'm not taking those calls because I respect their contracts. I respect the fact that they're with the UFC. But let me tell you one thing. Once those fighters are free agents, then guess what? I'm going to take those calls. I'm going to take.
So you're going to compete?
I'm going to take them all. Every last call. I'm going to take the call from Conor McGregor, from Khabib, from my connect, who's going to give me that hard white. I mean,
compete with Dana White.
Hell, yes, I am. I'm going to compete with Dana White. Just the way I started Golden Boy Promotions, and now we're the biggest powerhouse in boxing. That's exactly what I'm going to do with him.
And you think you'll...
The biggest powerhouse in boxing? Seriously, Oscar? Come on, man. Now, we know you have Canelo, but who else do you really have in your stable? The biggest powerhouse in boxing. I wonder what Bob Arum will have to say about that. The biggest powerhouse in boxing. Somebody check Oscar De La Hoya's nostrils. Because he's snorting some serious shit.
You'll take better care of the fighter.
Absolutely.
So let's be clear. What's next for Golden Boy Promotions in MMA?
In MMA, I'm going to, sit down with my team. I'm going to analyze who the free agents are out there because I'm not going to get a hold...
Well, we already know, Oscar. You put the anal in analyze.
Hold of no fighters that aren't under contract with UFC, don't get me wrong. I want to see who's a free agent, who contacts me, and then I'll build another event, but I'll build a big event. I'll build an event where the fighters are, not Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell its ages, but I'll build an amazing event.
Well, Oscar, let's be for real. Another reason why you put on that Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell event was to show the rest of the UFC fighters this is what a Golden Boy Promotions event will look like for you. And plus, you're going to get a lot more money with me.
And not do it pay-per-view. I'll do it on a platform that is not going to charge you $80, $90. Pay-per-view is gone. Pay-per-view is gone. That's why Canelo Alvarez is going to make $365 million not fighting on pay-per-view.
Before I let you get on out of here, one thing I want to tell you, Dana White's going to be in studio in all likelihood later on this week, so beware. We're going to ask him his position about this, number one. And
I don't care. I'll come to the studio that day. I have one knockout left in me.
number two, I want to know personally on national television, if the opportunity presented itself, would you and Dana White sit across the table from one another and have a discussion about this?
I would love that. What do I have to be scared of? Dana White? I mean, give me a break. He looks like Frosty the Snowman.
Because I would certainly invite both of y'all on
I would love to. I would love to challenge him.
All right.
In any area, I will challenge him. In a fight, in promotion, snorting coke, wearing high heels, anything. I'm the man.
Let's do it here.
All right.
Oscar, always good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
All right, that.
But anyway, we'll see how things go with Oscar De La Hoya, Canelo Alvarez, this Dana White situation, etc. So peace.